Hi, my question's to G.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what your favourite, like what would be your dream role to play in a musical?
Ooh.
If
We're so unrelated to books right now, I don't even know where to go.
I want to know this as well, because good one. So answer it, G.
Something really fun. Like I don't really know now. Because I think growing up I was always like, I'd love to be Jekyll and Hyde, and actually I wanted to play the prostitute in Jekyll and Hyde. She had much more character, I tell you. I used to literally, it was so inappropriate, be like 15 in my room, Sabrina! My dad downstairs going, she doesn't write about sex.
I did Nancy and Oliver when I was 17,
really?
And I felt like really cool, and then I got the script, I was like, I'm a prosy. Like, no one told you you're a prosy until you get the script, and I was like the world's biggest nerd. And I'm on to like, as long as he needs me. It was a disgrace. So please play a prosy and make me feel better.
I think because people think I'm really sweet. I think going completely against that I love. And actually, so I'm doing the Christmasaurus with Tom this December, and I don't think I'm actually allowed to say what I'm doing. But what I'm doing is quite meaty and a little bit aggressive and a little bit annoyed, and something
T-Rex.
Yes, I am playing the T-Rex that the Christmasaurus has a little battle with. Just really vexed because she can't do anything, you know? But yeah, I don't really know, but I'm really looking forward to the Christmasaurus because I think it's going to be amazing. And also, I haven't really been on stage. Like I did Christmas Carol last year, which was amazing. I actually sang on stage for the first time.
When's
Well,
the
you're very
Christmas
good.
then? Is that all?
It's what was the Hammersmith Apollo, which is now called the Eventum.
And when are you doing it?
In December.
Oh,
Yeah,
because
tickets
I really
are on sale now if you want to travel down.
You can go!
Yes, you can not fly over.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I will stay where I am.
I'll
I will
Skype
be
you.
bitter, and
Watch.
I will be angry, and you will both FaceTime me.
Definitely, yes.
Sorry,
Sorry.
we've gone. We've done again. Any more questions?
My question's for Paige. Are you going to write any more Johnny Jefferson books?
Yes.
I don't have any plans to, but there is absolutely no way I won't at some stage. Like I have to come back to Jessie or Johnny, you know, or even if it's just for the hidden page. You know, I have this newsletter which I send out, and it's just, you know, it's free. It's for anyone who wants to just go into pagetoon.com and sign up to the hidden page. At some point, I would definitely write like an extra chapter. You know, I don't see them gone. There was something else I really, really wanted to write, a love story set in the future. It was like a dystopian kind of...
About Henry VIII.
when you said, you know, set in the future, and you know, I was like this is,
She's going to pretend that was her idea now, but you are all witness to the fact that I totally gave her that idea.
Sticking over, I'm like, you know, logging this. But I would love to, I definitely, you know, my publisher initially said to me, what about writing like a Lottie, like a different spin-off, and I was thinking, you know, Lottie, you know, like that would be nice to sort of tell her story, you know, from the acting sort of side of things. So I may come back and do that at some point, but yeah, there's basically this love story set in the future. It's called Unfrozen, and I started to write, I gave it so much time. I have not got as far as I wanted to with it. I've written basically 60,000, then now I have to put it aside because my next book's due in November. And I haven't started it yet, Lindsay. Shit!
My book is
No one heard that. No one
just
heard that.
finishing it,
Yeah. So we all basically love to leave things to the last minute. But if I had more time, I loved writing the Jessie stories. I love writing Johnny and Meg, you know. And they're the only characters that I've had that I've actually written proper sequels to. So obviously they're close to my heart. So I can't see myself leaving them alone, but no plans at the moment. But sometimes, like for example, I'm writing a sequel to 13 Weddings at the moment. It's an ebook short story, and it was because it just came out in Germany, and it did really well, so I went to the bestseller list, and for some reason I picked up the book off my shelf, and I just thought, I'm just going to read that prologue again. Anyway, I didn't stop, and it's quite embarrassing, but I quite enjoy reading my own books. But, you know, I just sort of like carried on reading it, and when I wrote that book, I thought, she absolutely has ended up with the right person. A lot of readers disagreed with me at the time. And I read it again later, and I thought, no, I was right. You know, that was, you know, Bronte could not have ended up with that one for various reasons. But when I read it again this last time, I thought, I'm not sure. Enough time has like now gone under the bridge. You know, enough water's sort of gone under the bridge. It's been 4 years, and it's time now for her to face her demons. And I'm not going to give away what happens in the sequel, but it's going to come out ahead of Christmas. And yeah, I really don't have time to write the short story ebook as well as the book that's due at the end of November.
But don't you think that's the most amazing thing about any book, is that for me the last page is never the end of the story.
Yeah,
Life
you can't leave them
continues.
alone.
You
Leave
can't.
them alone.
So you can always dip in and go,
Yeah.
what's that person up to?
Well, you know, that's why I basically decided to do this hidden page, you know, like this you know, sort of club, because I wanted to be able to just, you know, write an extra chapter here and there, and I didn't want to make my readers pay for it. I mean, I'm going to release this as a proper ebook short story, and I'm going to, you know, my publisher will be charging for it, because it's like, it's taking so much time, so much time to write, you know, it's like, you know, I have to do something.
It's your job, it's all right, it's okay.
Exactly.
It's your job.
I don't have to justify
It is your
this.
yeah.
It's going to cost
Paige
me.
needs to pay her mortgage and feed her children, so please, if that's okay.
Please don't buy it. No. But you know, I like doing the hidden page, and that is all free. And I just wanted the freedom of kind of like doing like the odd chapter, sort of here and there, without kind of anyone saying, I can't believe you're making me pay like £1.99 for this. You know?
It's so crazy that though, because that is your profession.
Well, that's true.
It's not, that's your.
As my husband
how
says to
long
me,
have
it's
you
like,
spent
well, you know,
writing that?
that's true. You know, my husband sort of says to me, it's like, would they go and work for a month for free? You know, or
I mean, it's less. You can't even travel into London.
No. Yeah,
From,
no, precisely.
Can't buy a coffee.
You can't.
Can't buy a coffee for the price of Paige's ebook, remember that?
Yeah.
When it comes out for
Okay, right
pre-sale.
One day, just don't have a coffee and buy the ebook. I mean, you know.
I'll buy you a coffee, and you buy Paige's ebook, and everyone's golden.
Okay, next question. Sorry.
This is for all of you. For people who were interested in getting into writing, what would be the one tip that you would give, the most important tip that you would give them?
Get writing.
Oh, yeah, right. It's
Absolutely.
the best out. It sounds so stupid, and you feel like such a tit for saying it, but it's the only way to write is to write. Just do it, whatever it takes, whatever it is. When I started and decided to be serious and try and do it, I started a journal. I started writing I Heart New York, what turned into I Heart New York, and I started a beauty blog. So I had 3 different styles, but it was like I had to write every day, and that just gave me that kick that made me do it.
I can remember.
Sorry. No, you say.
I can remember talking. I met Dorothy Coombson, who's one of my
She's
massive
the best.
idols, and I just love her. She didn't know that I was thinking about it at the time, and she was just saying how whenever anyone meets her, they're always like, "Oh, you're a writer. I would love to write a book." And her advice was always, "Well, if you want to write a book, write it." Because unless you write it, actually, it's the one profession where nothing can happen. It's all on you. So literally that day I went home, I wrote out 3 different summaries, picked one, and that turned into Billamy.
Yeah.
But that is it. It's literally...
Yeah, it's the same thing. I did exactly the same thing.
So, I mean, the best thing, we're so lucky these days because you can self-publish, you know, like ebook short stories, or not short stories, just ebooks generally.
Yeah.
You know, you can self-publish your own book. You've got no excuse whatsoever. You will find an audience. So many authors have to do so much on social media these days to, you know, publicise their own books. So, you know, you'll be amongst good company, and there's just an amazing sort of community out there.
Yeah, there's
People
such
are
a
so
massive
supportive.
support. And like, I was in New York when my first book came out, and I really didn't know any other writers. And obviously New York's full of writers, but New York's also full of very like, oh, you write chick lit, how interesting, writers. And no one wanted to talk to me or know me, and everyone was a bit like, oh, she writes those books. And I'm like, piss off, so I'm doing it, and yeah, me. And then I turned around, it was just me in a cupboard. And Twitter and Instagram and Facebook was where I found my support group. I mean, like, I think the first place I ever spoke to either of you guys was online.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's where everyone is, and I don't think that it's a massive democracy. There's no bridge between like, oh, I have to have a book published before I can talk to this person online. Like, just tweet us and Instagram us, and we will with there, man. Like, just, man, I live in LA now, man. Like, just go for it, just do it. And every day that you think you can't do it, you just have to sit down and do it.
Yeah. And I've got to say, coming from an acting background, so I was an actor before I went into writing, and whereas in acting it's literally dog eat dog. Like, there is one part that you're all up for, it's so the opposite with writing. I think there really is this thing of if you get someone reading, they might read someone else's book, and then you just turn someone into a reader. I think it's so amazing.
There's a place for everyone. There's no such thing as one slot in publishing. If there is a good book, there is a home for it, and everyone is so supportive. I've never had a job. I worked in PR and I worked in publishing before I was a writer, and they could be a bit brutal. But publishing has been amazing. Everyone is just so supportive of each other because we're all sat in cupboards crying at 3 a.m. Well, the cupboard part's me, but everyone's like stressed out and freaking out, and you're all there for each other. So yeah, just do it. It sounds really stupid and obvious, but no one's going to do it until you do it. Do it. It's kind of...
I'll check it. Challenge. That's you, Paige. Do you find it harder writing for a teenage audience than for an adult audience?
I actually absolutely didn't, because for me, as long as I'm inside the character's head, then you're connecting with that character, and Jessie's 15, so I was connecting with her. The only thing about it was that I always try to write, even though some of my stories are a bit fantastical, like Meg, for example, in Johnny Be Good, she goes to work for a celebrity. She goes to work as a celebrity PA to this rock star, world famous rock star. But I tried to make it the most realistic as possible. And with Jessie, she definitely would have carried on smoking. Like, there's no doubt about it. But my editor said to me, Jane,
honestly, Griffith calls herself a hand twin.
She said, you have to make her stop smoking, because you have to be like realistic. So that is like the only thing that was different about Jessie, was that I couldn't be completely true to what I think the character would have done, because you had to be more responsible for a younger audience. But she was my most fun heroine that I've ever written. Like, I flew through the writing of those books. She's really naughty. Like, she gets up to all sorts of grief, and I absolutely loved writing her characters, and definitely didn't struggle.
Do you think that's because with older characters, they have more of a sense of responsibility, whereas with the younger characters, you're like, think about when you were 15, you're like, fuck it.
Yeah, maybe, I love reading YA because you're reading about first love. There's nothing more passionate than first love, and to sort of be a part of that and to write that from her perspective, and in Jessie's perspective, she was caught between, the boy next door and this sort of like, rock star kind of boy, and that was just so much fun to write. So, it's I don't know, it's fresher. There's something about it that's even more fresh when you're writing for a young adult audience, Yeah, I'm reading YA at the moment. Everything.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Because
I do think the characters kind of throw themselves in wholeheartedly.
It's totally fearless. YA is fearless. Like when you're a teenager, you've got no boundaries. So whereas an adult, your character's always going like, oh, should I do that? Should I do that? I've got my mortgage. Am I going to be at work tomorrow morning? Whereas teenagers like, let's just do it. And they don't think twice. They just do stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, so jealous. It's so good.
My question's really for Jane. Do you find it very different writing? It sounds really weird when you're talking to this. Do you find it very different sort of writing the non-fiction and fiction?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously I wrote non-fiction stuff at the end of last year. I absolutely loved it because you know everything. I think a lot of my time writing fiction is spent going, what does this character do? Who are they? Because I think every single aspect of what they do, what they like, tells so much about who they are. So for me, writing the non-fiction is like, I know everything. I know everything about knowing nothing about motherhood, basically. And so I just loved getting out there. But at the same time, when I came back to writing fiction, I loved it. Because all of a sudden, all the responsibilities taken off of you, and you can not hide behind a character, but it's not your thoughts. Whereas writing non-fiction, you are letting everyone into your head. And it's so emotional and personal. So I love both, and I think at some point I would love to go back to non-fiction because it's just brilliant. And having my baby, I feel like it's part of our family now.
And you've got your podcast that just launched this week.
Number one on the iTunes chart. It's going really amazingly because I feel like when I became a mum, I thought I was going to be super mum and I was going to be making clothes out of curtains, making jams, sugar-free jam obviously, and making cakes, which are all sugar-free, and just doing great things in my life. And I didn't, and I was such a maternal person, And actually, when I had that baby in my arms, all I could think about was the fact that he wouldn't feed. I was so stressed, I was so anxious all the time. I didn't enjoy that baby, and I felt like I was the only one who felt that way, and I felt a complete failure. And I really, really struggled. And what I struggled with was the fact that no one else felt that way, that everyone else got it right. And then I think suddenly realising that actually that's not the case. I think I probably shared a few things on Twitter and was blown away with the response. So I just thought, it's got to be out there. More people need to know that they are not failures, that they're actually completely cracking it, and that motherhood is just this weird, crazy ride. So I feel amazing it's out there. The podcast I'm so thrilled about. I'm thrilled about the fact that so many different mums are coming on, Paige is coming on, to kind of go, I don't know anything. You know, just kind of think it makes us all go, oh my God, I'm not on my own. Which as a mum, sorry for all the non-mums here, being told that you're not alone is the most powerful tool you'll ever be given. So yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm actually reading Happy Mum, Happy Baby at the moment. I came along to G's launch ages ago and just had so many other books I had to read beforehand. And now that she's invited me along to a podcast, I'm like reading it, and it's so amazing, like to be able to read it as a mum. Like my son turns 10 next week. I can't believe it. Thursday, but it's bringing back so many memories that we actually had so many of the same sort of experiences.
It's so funny. Paige actually emailed me the other night with a picture, a screen grab of this one paragraph from the book. And it's where I'm talking about a friend of mine who knew this author, who basically, she'd given birth and was writing the book straight away afterwards. And I just had this vision in my head of how amazing writing and being a mum was going to be. They were going to work side by side. The baby was going to be sleeping the bouncer. I was going to be like bouncing it with my foot while typing away. And obviously that wasn't the case at all. And so Paige sent me a screen grab. I was like, who's this? It's like, it's you! It's actually you! Because we both worked at Hit magazine and we've got this mutual friend, and Karen was like, yeah, she just sit there, it's amazing.
I did write all of my books during baby nap times until they went to school this week, but it was because she said, she writes extraordinary books. And I was like, I'm not sure that's me. I said, I read it aloud to Greg. I'm not sure that's me, but I didn't write that. I wonder if it. So I was like, when she told me, I was like grinning like a buffoon.
So obviously she needs to be on the podcast to dispel that myth that's just in the book.
Yeah, that was shit. That was really hard.
I know some people have to leave
sorry.
in a little while. I know, I'm like, Nana says it's time to crack on. So we've got time for a couple more questions. If we do some more towards the middle or the back, maybe, so we can move back there. We've got like 3 more. I know, it's 8 o'clock already, which is mental. They've got to come and set our books down, actually, it's fine. Carry on.
My question's for Paige. Which female character do you relate to the most personally?
I've kind of always said Lucy for that, just because, this whole sort of, is it autobiographical, and it's not in the sense that, I'm not involved in a love triangle, I've been happily married for almost 13 years now, and with my husband for over 20, but the fact that she was sort of caught between Australia and England, I was writing that very much from the heart, because I've always felt very, very torn. My entire family live in Australia. Now, I have a family of my own, so I'm much more rooted in England. But certainly when I was writing that book and when I came up with the idea, I felt very, very torn. I had a husband who was from Yorkshire. There's no way in hell he was going to go and live in Australia, and my entire family had moved back there. Like my mum and dad had sort of dragged me kicking and screaming over to England, go off to university, meet someone I'm going to marry, and they bugger off back home again with my brother, and it's like I felt so torn. And so I did pour that kind of, never being truly happy, because I'm always going to feel like part of me is in, the other side of the world, into Lucy in the Sky. But the character that I've loved the most has been Bridget from the last piece of my heart. I just absolutely loved her character. She just, because I wrote her as a friend character first, I don't know if there's something there's a bit more freedom. There's maybe a little bit less of me in her. I don't know, but I don't know, because there's always a little bit of you in every character that you write. But because she was a friend character first, I think she just had a lot more freedom to sort of say and do as she pleased. And so when I came to get inside her head, I just thought, she doesn't get jealous, so many of my characters get jealous, and she was just really fun. I absolutely just loved, I really kind of connected with her. I wish that she was real and she was a mate of mine. That's fun.
I'd just like to know what all of your favourite books are. Not of our own, obviously. And Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I was packing it to fly to New York, and I was like, I'm gonna read the first chapter. Literally halfway through, I had to just prize myself away, and then I sat the rest of the flight to New York like this, just reading it, and I couldn't stop for like so many tears. And I think that is also the book that I would have loved to have written. I just think it's thought-provoking and incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh man, it's the hardest question to answer because I love all the books.
So many,
Can I have two? Go two. It would definitely Secret History by Donna Tartt, which I read at university. My lecturer gave it to me and he was like, "You're gonna like this." I was like, "Yeah, will I?" And then just read it in like a day and was like, "Oh, it's so good, I'm never ever gonna write a thing." Which is the thing, right? I think when you really love something, you're just like, "Oh, I could never do this. I wish I could do this so well." And The Secret History is always that book for me. And then Where'd You Go, Bernadette, which I read and just died laughing. And then it's so clever and it's so funny. And if anyone's looking for the opposite of Me Before You, a laugh riot. Where'd You Go, Bernadette? They're making a film of it, so like read it before they make the film because it's going to be so good. But those two, I just could read them over and over and over and over, and I see something new every time.
I absolutely love Bridget Jones's Diary. Just when I read that and just laughed out loud so much, absolutely loved it. But I also really like Marion Keyes and Colleen Hoover. You know, just she really writes from the heart, and I just connect with all of her. Sort of, there's always a reason, a forbidden love kind of thing, which I just love. You know, and Cassandra Clare. You know, I love sort of fantasy, sort of young adult. Love Jandy Nelson. Yeah, I can't choose. I'm sorry.
we will answer that all night long. Yeah.
For all of you, would you ever do a collaboration? I can see Billy and Sophie with Meg and Johnny crossover.
I love that idea.
I love this idea as well. Somebody tweeted that ages ago that we were sort of talking about Alex. Was it you? I remember that. You know, like Alex and Johnny kind of like hooking up too.
Well, maybe they just do like a collaboration.
Honestly, I have genuinely been tempted to like write their characters into my book.
Someone asked me, I Heart New York was really new. It had been out and I'd just finished writing I Heart Hollywood, and one of my editors emailed me. It was like, "Oh, this whole new thing that's happening, and like authors are writing together, and I was just wondering if you'd be interested." And I said you, and that was 8 years ago.
No way.
Yeah, because like so many people were like, "Oh, you write so much like Paige Toon," and I'm like, "Oh, I only really like skimmed her books," because when you write and when you're working in publishing, you're not allowed to read. There's no time because you have to read all the books they make you read, and you want to do a small cry. So I think I got Johnny Be Good, and I was like, "Oh, this is so good," and also about a band, and like I've just done this and shit. But yeah, I was like, "Oh my god, if I had to pick someone, it would be Paige," because like I think so many people like both. You weren't writing at the time. It's nothing personal. We were like, "No, screw that, G. She's got her own thing going on. She's fine." But yeah, I actually, because I've done so much, before I was writing full-time for myself, I did so much ghostwriting, and I used to novelize movies. So I wrote like novelizations of scripts.
It would be so much fun. Like if we
love
actually
to
did
do
it.
it.
Like, if we did like
Should we just do it now? We'll just knock something out. I want to put it around the back, and we'll put it out. But yeah, I would really love to do it. Whether it was like the Will Grayson. Have you read that? It's John Green and David Levithan. I'm saying that right, but I don't know if anyone's read that. It's a John Green novel, and it's about these two teenage boys who are both called Will Grayson, and they're like separate stories that collide.
Oh, wow,
and it's
so cool.
genius.
Oh,
and I've always wanted to do something like that. So thank you.
I'm up for it. I say
Out next Christmas.
Thanks for the inspiration. You get 5%.
My agent's in the audience, and she's not going to give you 5%.
You're not.
Have we got time for a couple more?
Yeah, there's one.
Someone's going to tell us when we've run out of time, I hope.
This lady here, she's been running for ages.
We'll do a couple.
Can I go? You know, you're always talking about the characters that you like the best, but what's like the least favourite character that you've ever written? Kind of to all of you, you know, like the one that you've really hated but enjoyed writing about as well.
That's really hard, because even the ones that are massive shits, and I apologise for my swears, but I actually love writing them the most of the time, because they're like
that's where you get your
the
aggression
worst part of yourself. Yeah, like in the I Heart series, there's Cece who works with Angela, and she's just like the worst human. But I understand everything she's doing. I'm not saying that I've definitely, almost certainly lived with her as a roommate.
And she's so funny.
Yeah. So you're just like, you know why she's doing it. I know, because in her heart, she's so privileged and so sure of herself. She just doesn't understand why people just don't give her everything she wants, and why everything's just not absolutely 100% as it should be for her. And she feels untouchable, so she can do whatever she wants to someone, because no one's going to do anything, and quite frankly she's right anyway, so screw everyone else. And there's a freedom in writing that, because our human lives are so far removed from that. She sees no consequences to her actions, and it's so awesome to just be like, I'm gonna do the worst thing a human can do, or like several things, and then just be like, cocktails, yeah, cocktails. And I love writing that so much.
Yeah, it's so fun.
It's so freeing.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be like, oh, we don't have anything like that, we're really nice.
No, in the last piece of my heart, Charlie, who's the widower, his wife Nikki, who has died, she has a mother and a sister, and these two are quite anti-Bridget, and they were fun to write. Not fun to write because it was awful for her, but they were sort of, just felt very sort of antagonistic about the whole thing. She should be left in peace, and really quite evil to her. At this certain point, she sort of walks up to the door and she can hear the sister sort of screaming behind the door, sort of, saying, what the hell, she's a hussy, she's a media whore, kind of, sort of, because Bridget was doing this blog and she just didn't understand it or anything like that. So writing that was kind of fun.
I'd say Billy's manager, actually, in Billy and Me, who actually, in the first draft of it, I actually had him come to it, he was turned nice. He was like, oh, you've got a heart in there. And interestingly, my editor was like, no, keep him an arsehole the whole way through. So I was like, all right. So I built it up even more. And, they come really naturally, I don't know why.
Because as a decent human, you can't do that, and then suddenly all your frustrations, like that person that cut me off at the traffic light, well, this is for them. That woman that totally got in front of me at the supermarket when she knew I was next in line, like, this is for you. Because you've just stood there and gone, oh no, it's fine, absolutely, you go ahead, it's fine.
Oh no, I'm total passive aggressive.
Oh,
thank
no.
you. I'm that person. I'm like, stop it, you don't know, they might have a knife, you don't know.
Well, that's just you. But yeah, it's always really fun to write those terrible characters. Yeah. Do we have time for more? And then definitely this lady would definitely answer your question.
My question's for G, and the first one, it's kind of a double-ended question. The first one is, where did you get the inspiration for Molly's on the Hill? And the second bit is, are we getting any more from Billy and Sophie?
So Molly's on the Hill is actually a place in Harrow on the Hill, which is a tea shop called the Doll's House, which we love going to. It's a lovely little tea shop. So literally, I was trying. The village is. It's not Harrow on the Hill, the village. But I created this village, and I wanted her to work somewhere that was a real hub of the community. So I created that. But it's slightly stolen from there. I mean, they love it, and every time I go in there, I do walk away with a box of cakes for free.
You're a genius. You're an actual genius.
Yeah, I mean, just write things in to books, and you're like, whoa, cakes! So that was that, and I would absolutely love to go back to them. I feel like where they are left in Always With Love, it's, you want more. And so yes, absolutely. And to be honest, I didn't know it was going to end there in Always With Love. Like we were talking earlier about how much we plan our books. We haven't actually talked about how we write, but so I always come up with a main concept for the beginning, and then I kind of know where I would like the character to end up at the end, and then I go for it and just let the character go, because there's nothing more stifling for me. I guess it's more like an improvisation type thing.
Yeah.
I just kind of let someone go and see who comes in and whatever. And so I had no idea that Always With Love was going to end up the way that it ended. And so that when it ended, I was like, well, I've got to write one more at some point. Because that thing that you were saying, the last page is never the last, unless someone dies. And that's
And
pretty
then they all
final.
died, and it was over.
Yeah, Tom's always trying to kill off my characters as well. It's like, no, let them live.
No, Tom's like, enough's enough, not that one on there. It's like a Virginia Andrews book where you followed like 18 books in a series and then suddenly they all drive off a cliff and die. But don't worry, they're kids. Man, I've invested like 7 years in this. That was in the attic, not to name names. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. We've absolutely 100% got to answer this lady's question because she's had her hand up for ages. I'm so sorry.
Hi, this is for Lindsay.
Yay!
First of all, I love your writing in the I Heart series.
You don't. You think you do.
Do you have any plans to turn the I Heart series into a film or a TV series? Which musician would play Alex?
We're going to have to invent one, basically. Would I turn the I Heart series into movies or TV? I would love to. I would honestly love to. I know there's a lot of authors that are like, oh no, I would hate that, because they would ruin it. Yeah, yes, there are. I've met them. And they're like, oh, it's a disgrace, they ruined it, I hate it forever. And I was like, you are so silly. Wouldn't it be like the most fun thing? I genuinely love the idea of just being like, giving them the story and being like, oh, what are you going to do? It's really weird. I've had loads of meetings. I've got a meeting when I get back with the producer. And we have meetings and then nothing happens. And then they're like, write a script and then we'll see what happens. Well, I've got to write a book then. I would love to. I'm definitely trying. We're talking about both sides of things. Maybe, hopefully, one day, if enough people wanted it, it would happen, I'm sure. She says, having to believe. Because I've seen some films that have happened on TV series and they're bad. So, like, there's room for another one. Let's do it. Not necessarily just from books, just like bad telly. Loads of it. So yeah, I would really like to. And as for who would play anyone, I honestly don't know. It's so weird, because I don't know if it's the same for you guys. Like, I know it sounds so stupid and I sound like a pretentious tit, but they're real in my head, so I can't
I say that all the
cast
time.
them. Yeah, it's
I'm
like,
so pretentious.
it would be like saying who's going to play your best friend in real life. I'm like, well, my best friend's going to play my best friend. So I really don't know, but I love getting ideas from other people, and there have been some really good ones. So if you have any ideas, please let me know, and we will attempt to cast them in the non-existent film and TV series, which I'm hoping to make happen in the near future. But yeah, would you guys, you would want that? You would want that. You would want that.
Awesome.
Because I want to come and see it.
But I think it's always
Can
one
you
of those
introduce
things
me to your producer friend?
Yeah, but she's useless. I mean, she's dead nice and she always pays for lunch, so I keep going to meet her.
I think it's one of those ones that's always out of our hands, though.
Yes,
Really,
yeah.
like we write books.
Yeah.
Anything out of that world.
And that's the
like,
big thing, because I moved to LA, which sounds really glamorous, but in reality covered. It's like 2 years ago, and everyone there is in the film industry. Everyone, and they all assume that you are too. And when people say, "What do you do?" and I say, "Oh, I'm a writer," they're like, "Oh my God, what show do you work on?" And like, book in a cupboard. And then they're just like, "Okay, not interested. You don't know anyone. Don't want to talk to you." And then you'll get that one person that's like, "Oh my God, you should be my producer friend." I'm like, "Yes, I should right now. Please give me their number." And it's great, but it's really weird. And the big thing that everyone is saying now is like, "Oh, you have to write the script. You have to write the script." Because
when?
No, I know, but this is
When
it.
can we
Can we
find
write
that
the
time?
script? Because we've got to write our combo book now. I've got a deadline in November. Then I've just told everyone there's going to be a new IR the summer after that. And I'd love a nap. I'd love to sit down.
And also, it's not like I always feel like I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes
And you
to
work
books.
like a demon. We've just established you put a human out of yourself and then immediately wrote like 3 books. Well, I was like, oh no, I've got a paper cut, I need to sit down for 2 weeks. So it's really, I don't know, it's hard.
Well, to go into a medium that you don't know at all, like we don't know how it works. I mean, I hate the thought that things are formulaic. Like I hate that. There's this whole thing with Netflix at the moment that I've heard that it's really they need this and that and then that's what makes the perfect show. It's like a puzzle.
That's constant in LA.
That.
I got a phone call from someone who was like, because I'm in LA, so they're like, you can go to this meeting, and they're like, HBO is looking for something, and they want Gossip Girl, but smarter. And I was like, why are you calling me? Also, you love Gossip Girl, so I don't start flagging Gossip Girl. And they're like, yeah, and I was like, Lindsey could shit this out. And I apologise for the swears, but I was just like, and I'm halfway through a draft at the time, and I was like, I honestly don't know what to tell you or do about this. But isn't it all the time? You'll get, every so often you'll get a message that's like, Netflix is looking for something, and they want Friends meets Sex and the City, meets this thing that never even existed, meets robots. And you're like, oh god, yeah, I'll totally do that. But it's such a weird pie-in-the-sky thing, and we're writing what we're writing and doing what we're doing, and it's just like, does someone want to make a film of this book I wrote? It's such a weird world, it's so strange. Me. Poor us. It's a tough world. But yeah, I would so love to do it. It's just such a, we have no control.
Let's write a book together and then become producers.
Yeah, let's just do it. We could just act it out in our houses.
Oh my god, we could do this! Yeah, we could do this on tour, our own tour live of the book we write together.
Literally, I'm so amazed that these people have paid to see this.
We've had too much to drink, we're going to carry it away.
Your money back on the way out because this has been a shambles.
Creative meetings though, there's no bad idea. That's what I'm saying, okay? They just get forgotten. Yeah,
G's going to make it happen. G's going to make all of our movies happen and it's all going to be okay.
I wish. We're digressing.
I also have no idea who's in charge of wrapping this up either, so we're all ready for a long night. So I'm so sorry.
It's like 8:20.
Yeah, do we stop at 1:30?
Let's stop at 1:30. Let's
We've
make
got
a
to sign
plan.
books for people.
Because then we're going to sign.
And if you can't get a book signed, let us know and we will find a way to get you a book plate that has been signed and we will just make that happen for sure. Bye! Yeah, you will get a signed book if you want one. If you don't and you're leaving, you hate us, that's also cool. Just like tweet us and we'll sort it out. Bye! They did hate us. They were like, we don't even want your book thing.
They took us train so fast.
I know.
Does anybody need to leave, like in the next 10 minutes?
Stuck now.
Sleepover.
That was your out.
Okay. Right, we'll answer 10 minutes more questions, then we're going to start signing. And if you do need to leave soon after, then please rush to the front.
Yeah, and if we don't get to your question, you can ask us while we're signing.
Or if you're pregnant, please come to the front. Because I've had it at the end of a signing. I'm like, what are you doing?
And also if you need a wee, because we've been a while, come to the front, as I kind of do. But I'll power through, but if you need to go, like, come to the front. Carry on. I'll go back to my wine. Next question.
Finish mine. I don't want to steal your
Are there any more questions?
There are anywhere.
Yeah,
That's enough help.
There's some over here.
Oh, it's on. My question's for Lindsey. I know you wrote a few short stories about Jenny, but would she ever get her own full book?
I would love to write a Jenny book. The short stories happened because I suggested a book and people were like, oh, I don't know if she's worth her own book. I'm like, she's definitely worth her own book, I love her. And she gets a big old chunk of My Heart Forever because secretly I want it to be like, it's all about Jenny. So I don't know for sure if it will happen, but never say never. There's definitely another I Heart coming, so she's got more stories to tell. But I love Jenny, she's my favourite. And I love Angela, obviously, because she's Angela, but it's Jenny that keeps everything powering through. It's always Jenny that's the original idea that starts the next one going. So you never know. Never know.
My question's for G. Would you take after Tom and go into children's books for your kids?
Yeah. It's one of those things. When I have time to think about
free
it.
time.
Yeah. I think I'd love to do it, and I think it would obviously be an obvious thing to do. I don't know if I'd be any good at it, but I'd love to. I think there's that thing, isn't it? It's a children's book. It's only 800 words. It's easy.
So
we're just lucky that we get to ramble and ramble. So yeah, I'd love to. It's just, for me, it's about finding the right idea. And I don't think that necessarily comes from being forced, like, because I get asked, would you do it? And I'm kind of like, well, I'm kind of busy with this right now. I'm already quite stressed, so I'd love to at some point, but I think the idea will come, and then maybe I'll go, let's talk to publishers. But yeah, not right now, but maybe at some point.
So Lindsey, in your I Heart books, Angela and Jenny love fashion
obsessed shopaholic?
Have I what, sorry?
Shopaholic?
Am I a shopaholic? I feel like the fact that I came out dressed as a cross between a 70s disco hooker and a spy hasn't helped. I was like, oh, everyone's going to get dead clown because it's Manchester and it's night out. And then I was like, you two look dead classy and I look like a slag. I massively, massively love fashion. I love shopping to the point where I have to hide things in the car for a little bit sometimes to sneak them in when my boyfriend's out. I'm super reformed. I've like, tried really hard and then like bought these for tour because I needed them for tour. I needed them. They were important. I needed them. I'm going up north where it's wet. You need boots. So yes, the really short answer to that is yes, and thank you for shaming me in public. I needed that. 6 more minutes.
It's okay. There is
Hi, my question's for Lindsey. I just wanted to know, would you be writing any more books about Tess?
Oh man, it's so hard. I would love to write more Tess books because I love Tess. I love Tess and Nick. Like Tess and Nick make me crazy because he's just such an amazingly hot monster. And I feel like he's the guy that we've all either dated or you've had a crush on. Everyone's like, Alex is just like this ridiculous dream human that needs a punch. But Nick's like, we've all known a Nick. Like everyone's like, oh, he's that super hot guy that's just this close to being great, and then so at the minute there's no plan. They may or may not get a name check in iHeart Forever because they're still there, and yeah, it's a never say never. I think then potentially a short story and then see where it goes, if that helps. Doesn't, but there you go.
Hello, I'm just wondering what's your favourite place that you've written about? Because you've written about various locations in your books, and I'm just wondering what your favourite place is.
Such a typical one. I've written about so many different locations around the world. I've just, funny enough, you know, I went to Cornwall for the last piece of my heart, and I wasn't going there for the book. I was just going there camping with my family. And as we were driving out of the campsite in a camper van called Hermie, I sort of thought, this is where Bridget needs to write her book. And so I wrote about Bridget working from a camper van called Hermie in this campsite in Padstow in Cornwall, and loved it so much. Like it was just, I felt so kind of connected to it that we went back as a family and stayed on the Helford River, literally like a couple of weeks ago. And that's where the whole of my next year's book, 5 years from now, most of it is going to be set there. But I also write a lot in Australia because obviously I grew up in Australia and my family are all right over there. So quite a few of my books have got an Australian link. But yeah, Cornwall actually really took me by surprise. I absolutely loved writing from there.
I assume yours is where you get free cake.
Yeah, Rosemont Hill, which I completely made up actually. Only because I don't know why I made up a place, but I did, and Rosemont Hill, I absolutely loved it. But what makes it for me is the community. It's just this little bubble of a village, and so in Billy and Me, you've got this kind of movie set kind of storming into town. So it's this really quite isolated village having this other world brought in, and I just absolutely love it. I love all the people in it. But yeah, for me, Rosemont Hill.
Yeah, it's hard. I love writing about London because I don't live in London anymore, and I love writing about the UK because I feel like I'm visiting it when I'm writing about it. But I will always love writing about New York. Like, New York is my favourite place in the whole world. I just think it's the most incredible place where literally you're walking down the street and anything can happen to you. There's like an electric atmosphere in New York that doesn't exist anywhere else I've ever been. And it just feels like any story could happen at any second. And it's always going to be my favourite place, I think.
She lives in LA. She misses it.
Poor me, having to live in the sunshine. It's a nightmare.
So I think we're going to wrap it up there.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up and do...
I'm just going to run to the loo. Does anybody mind?
We might all have to do a quick loo because they've got children and that seems fair, and I've been drinking. So while we figure out the signing situation, we're going to be back in 2 seconds. We should have lied and been like, oh yeah, we just had to run on stage for a second. It's the toilet. And we'll
Thank
be
you
right
very
back.
much.
Thank you so much.